Welcome to Talk of the Town, proudly brought to you by Uniquely Nelson. I'm your host, Chris Butler, and with me, Simon Duffy, General Manager of Uniquely Nelson. Nice to see you here.
Good to see you, Chris. Morning, Tracey.
Very colourful background. Today, we're coming to you from Mariposa, which is on Trafalgar Street in a beautiful shop. And with us at the moment is Tracey Brignole from Mariposa. Nice to have you here, Tracey.
Thanks for having me. Good morning.
So first of all, can you tell us a little bit about your background? Where do you originally hail from?
Well, it's a bit of a big picture, but I originally hail from Australia, but I did leave there when I was very young, and grew up in Auckland. And then I went off on my big OE, married a Texan, lived in Texas for 12 years, which is where the very first form of Mariposa started, and then moved to New Zealand in 2000 and permanently 2004, but sort of bought some land in Golden Bay in 2001. So it started.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was just, it's interesting with that background, because when I look at the design, I see a bit of a Golden Bay influence, I feel, but also you could probably argue it's got a bit of a Texan feel to it as well. Is that right? So the original source of inspiration, was that where it came from?
Well, the original Mariposa started in Austin, Texas, and I met my husband in Mexico, and we traveled a lot from Texas into Latin America. So the very first version of it was us bringing in handicrafts, and we were just trying to fund our travels as 20-year-olds, basically.
Yeah, right.
The very early stages. And I think one of my first purchasing abroad was actually buying silver for my sister, who had a store in Byron Bay in Australia.
Oh, right.
And I was like, wow, that was kind of fun. She told me what she wanted. I sourced it. I shipped it to her, and it just kind of started slowly rolling
actually,
from
Byron
there.
Bay is a bit of an influence.
It is, I kind of feel like the store in Golden Bay felt like something that Byron had 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So how did you get involved in fashion wear or design? I mean, you're saying it started off in Texas.
Yeah.
But the actual design, are you designing or influencing what's behind us as such?
Yeah, there's a combination of items that I design and get manufactured, and then when I'm working on those items, particularly with the clothing and the jewelry, I work with suppliers in Bali, in Thailand, in Nepal. So I'm choosing items that go in with the items that I design. Whether it's colourful clothing and bags and jewelry that accessorize together colour palette wise.
So with where you sit today, has that been through your childhood or your teenage years or in your 20s to be involved in the rag trade as such?
No, I'm just completely self-taught.
Self-taught.
Yeah.
From the bottom up.
From the bottom up.
And you talk about being on the road. So almost you were getting involved in creating things to sell, almost to fund.
To fund travel, basically. Was the when my husband and I were we met in Mexico. We were 20 and 21. And I went to visit him up in Texas and organised the first lot of goods for my sister to go off to Australia. And then I lived there for 11 years, and that's where it began initially. In Mariposa, we were bringing in handicrafts and textiles from Latin America and selling at outdoor events in Austin and around Texas. And then we moved back to New Zealand, and he was ready to do something different, and I opened sort of brick and mortar stores, because in Texas we had markets and we did weekend events, big music festivals, street festivals and things like that.
Right.
When I moved to New Zealand, I opened my first sort of brick and mortar store, and that was in Golden Bay.
So because there's quite a bit of jewellery here in the shop, so that followed you or followed the clothing range as such, or it's always been there?
Yeah, we've always had some jewellery, but Mariposa's first store in Golden Bay was clothing and jewelry, and then we introduced a little bit of footwear, and then my passion for shoes we ended up opening, we moved Mariposa into a bigger site, and we opened Seoul, because the shoes, there was sort of demand for them. There was nowhere to buy shoes in Golden Bay, and then the challenges of Golden Bay being so busy in summer and quiet in winter, we ended up expanding into Nelson, so I could bring in products and spread it across the two areas.
Because it's interesting, you've had various shops all around Nelson City,
I have.
but in their own, like Dragonfly,
Yep.
Soul, Mariposa, and now this is an accumulation of
This is
bring it all together.
3 under one roof.
Yeah. This is an amazing shop.
Yeah. So this is sort of it's sort of adapting to the climate in a way. You know, the last couple of years have been a challenge. So instead of trying to run around a bunch of different stores, we've got it all under one roof that hopefully we've only just finished the final move. Hopefully next year sort of makes it a little bit easier from a cost, from an organizational perspective.
Because you said you'd moved a few weeks ago, we were talking, you said you'd moved 3 or 4 times in 5 years, or?
Yeah, there was a
You're
lot of
constantly on
sort
the-
of end of leases and buildings that we needed to either more space or we needed to move into something else. So I've done a lot of moving in the last few years. I think, I hope not to move again. I think my husband really hopes that I don't move a shop for a while, because I think it started in COVID. We had some leases up and some challenges, and we moved. I think I moved Mariposa in Takaka, I moved Mariposa in Nelson, and then last year we moved Dragonfly and Soul into this site. Then there's been a lot of moving in the last few years, and it's quite a big job each time.
So I picked up the name Mariposa.
Yes.
You mentioned that even while you're in Texas, is that right?
That was the very beginning of a business. We had Mariposa in Texas.
So where does that name come from?
So it means butterfly in Spanish, and my husband's mother used to call us the maripositas, which meant the little butterflies, because we were always coming into Texas and doing our thing and then traveling and flittering off somewhere else. And then that word, that was our business name that we chose. And when I moved down to New Zealand, it came with me.
Yeah. And so then Soul and Dragonfly, they were names that, you grew as it evolved.
As it evolved, when we did the footwear, we thought, we wanted it to have its own name and sort of title rather than all the stores Mariposa shoes or Mariposa jewelry. So we created, there's Soul by Mariposa and Dragonfly by Mariposa. And so that's sort of all under the one umbrella. And now here we've sort of everything all under one.
Yeah.
Which is
So what's as we're here, what's your offer? What's your point of difference, and what's your with your designs?
well, I guess
What's your mini products?
Yeah, we try and choose beautiful things and curate stories with color and items that are not available everywhere, so that you come in and it's kind of a sensory experience, and you
Certainly is.
and you kind of linger. And under this roof, with everything all in one, you can come in and you can kind of almost, at this time of year, Christmas shop for everybody or find a gift for everybody. The footwear at the front of the store is, and then the clothing and the jewelry at the back, it kind of creates zones, and some people are coming straight back into the clothing area, and some people are in the front or in the men's section, and it's just kind of, we kind of try and host a vibe that's welcoming and a bit of customer service that you don't always get these days.
There's lots of wonderful product. What I like about your shop is space.
Yeah.
It's not.
We've tried to keep it.
Because the colour's quite, but there's lots of space to flow through.
Yeah, and that's, I think, when you see that on a busy Saturday morning, while there is a lot everywhere going on, there's still room for a stroller and a wheelchair, and you can make your way through the whole store. We've tried to keep the aisles and the alleyways really open, so that even though we've now got all 3 under one roof, we still got a nice spacious areas where good flow.
I mean, there's pretty much something for everyone. I'm just looking around because you mentioned the footwear at the start of the shop there, but we've got some beautiful bags and shoulder bags and handle bags and carry bags. We've got jandals, we've got dream catchers, and look at those beautiful are they feather, it looks like neckwear or
so those come from Java, so they're decorative panels, and so it's sort of, there's some wall art as well that we bring in to just to complement.
but jewelry and gifts, but also notice children's footwear as well, so
men's, women and children's footwear. So the footwear is basically focused on quality comfort footwear, so that you we don't do a lot of high heels and but it's all a lot of comfortable everyday. If we do something with a little bit of a heel, it's one of the European brands that has comfort built into it as well.
So the three, let's say your three main products, which is footwear, clothing, and jewelry.
Yeah.
Do they all sell equally, or one sells more than the other?
Footwear is definitely the busiest area. I mean, the clothing's we're still sort of doing the final bits of the move. The clothing has only been in this site for like less than a month. So we're still working out our systems and how we integrate it. But this building, when I first saw it, I was like, no, it's way too big. But then when I started thinking about it, there's 6 changing rooms already built out. It kind of started going, well, actually, it was becoming more challenging in this climate to keep 7 stores running. So to come under one roof with little old me, to come under one roof and bring, a year and a half ago, I had 4 stores in Nelson. I've now got 2.
Yeah.
And bringing it all under one roof, hopefully might afford me a little more free time next year.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
Good. Something to work towards.
So tell us about that. So it's all, you said you're now left with 2 retail outlets. So there's one here.
And one, and one on Hardy Street, which is where Mariposa has been for the last 3 years. And at the moment that's operating, it's called our Mariposa on Hardy, and that's our clearance store. So in order to consolidate down to everything fitting in here, we've got end of line, we've got excess product, we've got lines that we're discontinuing. For example, going forward, we're not going to carry children's clothing, we're not going to carry swimwear. So over at Mariposa on Hardy, you can get everything 50 to 70% off. So there's some incredibly good deals.
Yeah.
And then sometimes with the footwear, we've got last pairs, we've got new versions of the same models coming in, so discontinued styles will go over there half price. So
Wow.
There's lots of goodies over there. It's quite it's
What number on Hardy Street?
220 Hardy.
220 Hardy Street. 220 Hardy Street.
You know that area pretty well, don't you?
Yeah.
It's between Ardennes and Merrick.
Yeah. So still a connection with Golden Bay, or do you travel over there, still have residents there, or?
Yeah, we've rented out. We originally moved to Nelson last year. I've got a 12-year-old daughter, and it just seemed like a good time in her.
Yeah, right.
For schooling.
For schooling, for opportunities and things. And she's sort of, I think she'll end up in New York one day. She's a city girl, I think, growing up in Golden Bay.
Yeah.
But we moved to Nelson last year. We rented our house over there. We've still got the 2 stores. And actually our office and our warehouse, all of the admin for the business still goes on in Golden Bay. So those jobs are in Golden Bay, and we get fed stock and all the payroll, all of that.
Wow.
Yeah, our office, that was up and running when I moved, and I didn't know if it was temporary and it was running and it wasn't broken, so we've just kept it.
Amazing.
It's still the same premise off the main street, isn't it?
It's on Junction Street where the office and the warehouse is. So we've got our payroll or our online orders, all of the ordering, processing, all the stock actually goes into Golden Bay and gets distributed from there.
So tell us about that difference now between bricks and mortar and online. I mean, obviously you've had bricks and mortar.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, you had, your travel shop.
Yeah.
Shop in a bag.
Yeah.
But then, bricks and mortar, and now online.
Yeah.
So tell us about that challenge. And also, the perception is now that we do a lot online, almost all online, but a lot of the conversations we've been having with local retailers is actually it's still not the major source for their sales, and that human connection is still very important.
Yeah, well, we've run an online store for Mariposa as a whole since 2010, so we've had online presence for a lot of years, so it is part of what we do, but definitely people coming into store and having customer service and connection. Luckily, there are the challenges to online, as if everyone is shopping online, then the viability of a bricks and mortar stores become more difficult. There are definitely challenges that we face with it, but online is a small portion of what we do.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So,
interesting.
Because it is, especially they'll see on the behind us, it's a very personal
it is
touch or product, especially with the clothing.
And we try and offer a really personal experience with the staff, and that's probably one of the challenges is at the moment working out the right amount of staff from a viability perspective to still being able to give really good customer service, and that's really important to me. But obviously staffing, and having it's a little bit of crystal ball gazing on what days will be busy. You can kind of gauge that Saturdays is always busy, but sometimes you suddenly are really busy and don't have quite enough staff, and then some days it's suddenly quiet and you have too many staff, and that's just one of the challenges with it all.
But you always seem to hire good staff, like Val.
Oh,
Big shout out for Val.
Valerie's amazing.
Valerie.
She's in here since well before her shift started doing our window. Yeah, she's just incredible. She's been with me for 12 years. I don't think I could be doing Nelson without her. She's just a huge, we often say she's Nelson famous. Nelson famous as the
Val, Mrs. Mariposa.
Mariposa in Nelson.
12 years.
She's just, we work together very closely, and she's just, she exemplifies everything I try and have in a staff member. She's really quite something.
So busy, moving shops around.
Yeah.
Downtime. What do you do in your spare time?
Gosh, I'd like to have more of it. I definitely say that. This last 12 months has been big. It's almost exactly a year since Soul Dragonfly moved in here, and I've been working out how to make things work under one roof.
Get out of Nelson?
Yeah, a little bit.
Go to Golden Bay?
I just had 2.5 weeks in India with my 83-year-old mother, which was amazing.
Oh, wow.
Over my birthday. She'd always wanted to do it. Her partner didn't want to do it, so she was like, come with me. And I think she could also see if I didn't leave, I'd just keep going and going. That was the first trip in quite some time I've done that was purely travel, not business. And I'm like, I need more time for this. It was just amazing.
You say 2.5 months?
2.5 weeks.
Oh, weeks.
Yeah, it was only 2.5 weeks. Yeah.
2.5 months.
I'd like to have 2.5 months, but not quite there yet. So not enough time for downtime, but I'd love to spend more time just in my garden, to be honest. But I'm not getting there at the moment. There's a lot of time being taken up with fine-tuning this to make it work.
Yeah, and that was one of my questions because, there's a lot to the business. You are the business, and you've got to manage staff, as you pointed out before. There's stock, but also, there's still your own design and that kind of stuff. So when you get time to sit down and design and think, how does that work?
Not enough time. Often when I go on my sourcing trips, I'm working with tailors and manufacturers, and things are kind of evolving around availability of fabrics and things like that. We tend to work in a way where it's not like a complete redesign every season. We're doing versions of, we don't, I like to almost describe it as it's not fast fashion where, the next thing's coming in and we've got to throw this away. We've got a lot of core lines and suppliers, and I work with them on new items, but then you're sort of letting go of something to bring something new in. The last year I haven't had enough time and that kind of thing. But even on this trip, when I had some downtime, I could see I need to start crafting and creating more space for that. Hopefully once it's settled down a bit, you might be able to get some time for that. It's been a big year, so next year I'd like to have more time for that.
More gardening.
Yeah, more gardening. I'd love to just get in my garden a bit more often than I have time to do.
Is that the garden here in Nelson City?
Yeah, the garden here in Nelson City,
It's funny, in the last few months, I go, are you in Nelson? I shifted here some time ago. I always think,
me being in Golden Bay.
Yeah.
And I do go over there at least once a month. I'm over there and checking in. With all the moving these last few months, I haven't gone as often as I would like to. But I also there have an incredible team. Kieran in the office, who is sort of like she is my general manager. She oversees a lot of things, and she oversees the Tākeka operation and does a lot of payroll and other amazing things to work in with me for it all to flow.
So now living in Nelson, and obviously you've had shops, and now 2 shops in the heart of Nelson City. So tell us what you like about Nelson City, but also what you'd like to see.
I love living in Nelson City after being in the Bay. I lived remotely there at the beginning and then had moved into town, and moving to somewhere a little bit bigger, a little bit busier, a little bit of live music. My husband's a musician. We try and get out to see music in Nelson as often as we can. It sort of feels like a bigger, there's a lot of artists and unique events and things going on in Nelson. I'd like to see more, because I can really see that Nelson is has just got so much more to offer. Sometimes I was having a chat. My husband's a mountain biker, and it would be great. Nelson has world-class mountain biking.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like it feels like a lot of visitors are not aware of it almost, how incredible the mountain biking is here. Just that Nelson, as such a treasure that it is, the beauty, the unique community, the arts, it's an awesome place. And I've seen businesses struggling over the last wee while, and it would be nice to see it humming again, I guess, a little bit.
Because that brings all those activities.
Brings people into town. So more people being aware that there's world-class mountain biking. I had a friend from Argentina arrive with his bike at the airport, and he presumed that there would be huge amounts of handling of bikes and people coming into bike, and he said he was surprised at the airport. They were a bit stumped, like what, like how to get him and his bike anywhere. Like he was just really surprised, and like he was like, this is some of the best biking he has ever done. That it should be, it just.
I think there was a lot of talk about that actually, and probably COVID did.
Yeah, COVID makes.
But what everyone's hoping for now is that, now that we can start focusing potentially, touch wood, on moving forward a little bit, we can start having those conversations again around, those kind of logistics. Because I've heard that comment before about, what could we do to make it easier for travellers and their bikes.
Just to highlight some of the, and I get that's just, on the other side of COVID, I think it's been very challenging for businesses and tourism-based businesses, taking people, retail, hospitality has been a challenge on the other side of COVID, with the cost of living sort of crisis, I guess.
So wanting to take some time off, or just, get things in place, what's the next big thing for you? Is there another project underway?
No.
No more projects.
My project is to carve a little bit more time with my family. I've been working really hard on the other side of COVID. I think before COVID, I felt like I had trickled down to working a little bit less. But on the other side of COVID, I feel like I'm working harder and more than I ever have. And my big project is to get things to a bit more quality of life. Less.
That balance.
Get work-life balance is my focus for next year.
Beautiful.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Tracey, for hosting us in this beautiful shop. It's an amazing shop, and if you haven't had a chance to come in and have a look, come and explore, because it really is every corner. There's little treasures all over the place and some beautiful products. So well done on the move, and and hopefully next year you'll be able to see the fruits of your labour and maybe a little bit more time off. But we really appreciate you spending some time with us. Thank you very much.
Tracy.
Big thank you to Tracey and her team at Mariposa here. You can find this podcast along with others at uniquelynelson.co.nz and talknelson.co.nz, and you can also listen on Spotify. Just look for Uniquely Nelson. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to join us next time for another edition of The Talk of the Town. This is Chris Butler and Simon Duffy signing off. Till next time, Nelson.
Tracey, stay uniquely in Mariposa.
Thank you.
Beautiful shop.